BXB. It's in the game!
Hey everyone, it's me, Ben, back with another one of my quick reviews, one of my rambling impressions and thoughts upon a new game. This time it's an indie title that is a console exclusive to the PS4, it's out on PC as well, and this is Sundered by Thunder Lotus Games. Now, on BXB Games, we've actually looked at a previous game by Thunder Lotus Games, which was Jotun, which is available on all the platforms. And that was given by my fellow reviewer Cameron a very strong 5 stars. However, I did have some time to play that game myself, and the one thing that Sundered has in common with Jotun is that this game is stunning. However, it's a different experience to what we had with Jotun. In Sundered, you play as Eshi, and you are a character sucked into this sort of underworld-esque, dark, eldritch-filled world of horrors and horrible nightmare creatures, and this game is a Metroidvania game. Now, by what I mean by that is that it's a series of levels which you progress through these different rooms and environments, and that you will find different abilities and pickups and power-ups that will mean you can explore further into the environments and unlock new worlds to find more power-ups and fight more incredibly dastardly evil bosses. Now, what we had in Jotun was kind of a boss rush game, which was basically a focus purely on finding and defeating these beautifully rendered giant bosses, and in Sundered you will not be disappointed with the variety and the design of the bosses you find here. They are truly terrifying and an incredible challenge. Now, on top of that, we have this cool twist on the Metroidvania kind of concept here, because while it's sort of a mix, it's hard to describe. The worlds are a mixture of handcrafted and procedurally generated, so there are fixed points in the world, but then around that the level can be procedurally drawn in, which means that every time you die and respawn and play through that area again, you have a different experience. And in addition to that, the enemy spawns are different. You might have an easier playthrough one time or a much more difficult playthrough. Difficulty, toughness. This game is challenging in the extreme. I think inspired by games such as Dark Souls, because that's what all games are sort of inspired by nowadays, it would seem. What we have in Sundered relishes death. You die constantly when you play Sundered. You will die and respawn and die and respawn and die and respawn. And every time you come back to life, the way that death is sort of rewarded is that the equivalent of souls in this game will then be used to power up your character and make you more capable for your next run through, so you can get a bit further that time. And that's great. But there is one major drawback to that mechanic, I think, in Sundered, and that is that the load times are very prohibitive. Now, it might be said that when you've gone through a big old playthrough and you've done a big rush at the game and you've got quite far, you might want to pause and recalculate your abilities and where you are anyway in the game. However, those loading times are quite prohibitive. Frankly, considering how much you die in this game, it would have been nice to see them reduced. And that's really the biggest drawback in Sundered. The music, and damn, the visuals are so gorgeous. The combat in this game is great. There's a huge slew of pickups and abilities and customization that you can do in this game, and that's absolutely stunning. That's done so incredibly well. There are hundreds of upgrades and different ways you can build your characters. There's this whole thing with resist or embrace, which is this mechanic that comes a bit later into the game, where you get these abilities that will, or these pickups that can completely transform the current abilities you already have or the equipment you have. You can either embrace the darkness and take more power from it but become more corrupted by it, or you can resist that temptation and become purer and be a force for light. And that will give you multiple endings, and the game can be resolved in many different ways because of that. Obviously, being a Metroidvania, the whole concept in Sundered is that you can approach each level and each environment differently. You can come back and you can replay the areas. You can go through the same sections again and again and again. There are 3 primary areas that start off the game, and there's a 4th that's added when you get to a certain point in the story. But you can basically tackle them in any order after you unlock them and go back and go through them again and again. I think Sundered is a real achievement. I think it's a stunning game. I think it's an engaging game. It's just a very, very hard game. And I'm not one of the most sort of patient gamers in the world, and this game really rewards patience and perseverance and a desire to come back, to hone your skills, to improve your abilities, to level up your character, and to keep chipping away and progressing bit by bit by bit. that isn't necessarily a tactic that lends itself to my type of gameplay and the way I like to play an action RPG, which is what Sundered definitely sort of shows itself to you as first. However, I think once you get into the swing of it, once you embrace that sort of challenge, Sundered is incredibly rewarding. So in spite of some technical problems, I give Sundered a very good 4 out of 5 stars.
BXB. It's in the game.